It's more like a bluish.
Would you like
It is
me to
more
go?
blue.
Are we ready to go?
I'm making a stupid face.
We're ready.
Also, I really loved this shirt when I bought it.
Mary, you
And
ready?
it has not aged
You
well.
ready, Mayor?
You can't even read it.
Is that the revision from last?
Like, and now I have
That's
this
if they
free shirt I
want
can't ever
to-
wear again because he beats his wife.
Oh, that's, I didn't get that changed. It's just gotta be
That was a good
Hey,
shirt.
look, you made the agenda.
this one.
Or the minutes.
Oh.
This is how they go through it.
With
So they,
revisions.
yeah, it's what you want with revisions or not. Just take out that part of it. We ready?
I'm ready. Here we go.
We're good.
Welcome to the Sarpy County Personnel Policy Board meeting. Today is May 24th, 2023. Meeting is now open at 3:05 p.m. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the county boardroom. We'll now proceed to roll call. Please respond by attending. Tatton,
Here.
Strawn,
Here.
Bennett,
Here.
Forrest, Davidson here. So 4 present, 1 absent. Also attending today are Carrie Flubber-Galecki, the Board Secretary, Mary Davis, the HR Director, and Kayla Hathcote from the County Attorney's Office. Have I forgotten anyone?
And Kayla Starbuck from the County Attorney's Office.
And Kayla Starbuck.
The dueling Kaylas are here.
Kayla Squirtin.
Kayla and Kayla, both here. Thank you very much.
We have the
I-
official Kaylas.
Item number 1 on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 12th meeting, copies which were provided earlier. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 12th, 2023 as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Strawn, John Strawn, and seconded by Randy Bennett to approve the minutes of April 12th, 2023. You should see a vote on the screen in front of you. Please vote.
Oh, she got us abstain. Laura was gone.
I was gone. So I abstained.
I don't have Randy's vote.
Randy has not yet voted.
I did. Mine shows 2.
That's me and John.
Oh. I don't know. I hit.
Who's voting?
Well, I voted once.
Yeah, you hit 4, but
Yeah. Didn't
Do we just take
register.
a, do you want, are you voting
Now it's
for or
going.
against?
Are you voting for or against?
Voting for.
Okay, so
Or-
we're gonna do a oral vote.
There it is. Just show
There.
it. Just
Yeah.
a little slow.
The motion is carried, 3 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. Item number 2, to discuss and make recommendations on personnel rules and regulations, Rule 12, concerning types of leave, Regulation 1, holidays, and for a few comments is Mary Davis, the Director of Human Resources. Please carry it away, Mary.
Good afternoon. With the holidays, the county, the direction for the county board this year during labor negotiations was to standardize the holidays across the board. They were a little different in the bargaining units. And what they'd like to see is, we've got 10 observed holidays and recommending 2 floating holidays. If we do that with this, under the personnel rules and regs, we'd like to remove Columbus Day and remove a half a day on Christmas Eve and replace those with those floaters, with those 2 floating days. The floating holidays would be a fiscal year. They would, it's a use it or lose it type of benefit. If an employee leaves, then the floating holidays are still on the books, if you will. They're not paid for those days, so they have to use it before they leave.
So the notion is moving forward with the collective bargaining units to still keep it looks like they're going to potentially gain 4 hours because we're taking away a day and a half and we're giving back 2 days. And so as these contracts come up, or if you do a memorandum of understanding, that's what your intentions are.
Yes, and they were actually, we just finished up with collective bargaining, and so
Okay.
all of the bargaining units have the 10 holidays, the 10 observed, and these 2 floaters. And so this is the one group that we have left, is the non-union classified employees. We'd like to move them in the same direction.
Are there any other questions or discussion? Carrie, were you contacted by anyone to request to make comments from the public?
No, it was not.
Very good. Since no one has come forward, I'll close the time for comments. Time is closed at 3:10 p.m. Since no one requested to appear before the board and give their views on the proposed rule, no comment period has been provided. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the
Rule number
Rule 12, Regulation 1 holidays as presented to us.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Laura. Motion by Randy Bennett, seconded by Laura Tatton, to approve Personnel Rules and Regulations Rule 12 regarding holidays with suggested changes or edits. Would you please vote?
Four A, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Motion carries. We will now move to item 3. Discuss and make recommendations to inclement weather closure and emergency declaration policy. Again, the speaker is Mary Davis, Director of Human Resources.
Currently, the inclement weather closure policy is what they call a Sarpy County Policy Bulletin. Those in the past have not actually come to this board for approval. They will moving forward, as they do affect the classified service. And with this, the adverse weather policy, just the highlights, if the county board chair decides to close the county due to severe weather, whether that be snow, flood, things like that. Essential personnel, there's certain essential personnel in the county that are required to work 24/7 operations, corrections, sheriff, 911, facilities, public works for snow removal, fleet, because they're repairing the equipment. And really, a department head or elected official can designate anybody as essential, depending on what their business operations are for that day. Anyway, with that, so if the board chooses to close county operations, essential personnel come in, they work, they receive their regular compensation for that. Non-essential personnel that do not have to come into work, the county board will, the county will still pay them their regular salary for the closure period. There's also a piece to this policy for just other emergency declarations. If a county office has a flood, a pipe burst, or something like that, depending on what the situation is, if it lasts more than 2 hours and they undergo a closure, the same type of thing, those employees that are sent home for that day would be paid for that closure period. If it's going to be a long-term issue, then the county would find them an alternate work site.
Thank you, Mary. Carrie, were you contacted by anyone to make comments on this?
I only received an email from Eric Herbert in the IS department, and he just said that there was a typo or grammatical. Thank you. I will eventually pronounce that. Grammatical error in the very last statement of the inclement weather policy. It says elected officials and department heads can designate any position as essential based on the business needs of the office at the same time of the closure. So they just need a typographical error.
Could you please reference the page so that I can track with you on that?
He said
please?
there's a typo, grammatical
Page 4 of
fix.
4.
What?
4 of 4. It's in that little box on
It's on the
attachment
very
A.
bottom,
Yeah,
right.
just with the
there.
asterisks. It just says can designated instead of designate.
Okay. And that was the only comment?
That was the only comment I received.
Okay. I believe that's a edit that we can make to correct that typo. And since no one else is coming forward, we're closing any time for comments. Do we have a motion?
Real quick, this might just be unnecessary, but where it says inclement weather closure, should we put and/or to show that it's two separate? I mean, it could be inclement weather or it could be some other type of emergency. So after the and, if we put a slash and put or, then we're, because right now it says emergency declaration instead of emergency closure. And I don't know if that makes a difference. I guess it's a question for the attorneys maybe.
In the
Are you
title
talking
there
about in the
you're
title?
In the title, I'm sorry.
So it's a fair question, but my interpretation of that, John, would be that the policy regards inclement weather and emergency declarations. So
Okay.
it would be just covering both of them. It could be one or the other.
Do you guys concur with that? Because I'm good with it if you are.
Yeah, if you, oh, this is work. If you look on the first page under purpose, that second paragraph, it says the intent of this policy is to find the pay practice and designation of which employees are required to work when the county closes one or more of their facilities as a result of inclement weather or other emergency declarations.
Perfect.
So I think it covers all those situations.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you for those comments. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the inclement weather closure and emergency declaration policy with the edit for the one revision under attachment A from designated to designate.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Randy. Motion made by Laura Tatton, seconded by Randy Bennett to approve with the one edit on page 404. Is there any further board discussion? Seeing none, would you please vote?
4A, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll proceed to item 4, discuss and make recommendations to the alternative worksite policy. Mary, take it away.
Okay, this is formerly known as remote work. And during COVID, the county implemented a remote work policy. And now that things have settled down with that, we've had a chance to go through that again, take a look at what the policy says, make some revisions. Decided to title it Alternative Worksite Policy. And basically, with this policy, the majority of county employees work on site, but there are some offices or some positions may be suitable for working in an alternative work location. If the department head and elected official believe that that is in the best interest of the county and they would like to pursue that on a regular basis, then this policy would kick in. And the policy outlines basically the requirements for the employee and the department head. They're accountable for their hours of work, what their productivity during the day, what hours they're available, their compensation is the same. They're required to be professional in their work environment, just as if they were sitting behind a desk at the office. The equipment and supplies, it goes over the equipment and supplies. Anyone that works off-site is required to use a county computer for security purposes and things of that nature. And the employee is responsible for providing their furnishings, their office space at home, whether they're, the internet, those kinds of things. That's on the employee. They're required to follow all safety protocol, whether they're working here or working at home, free from trips, hazards, things of that nature. If they do get injured while they're working at home, they go through the regular work comp procedures, and work comp makes that designation as to whether or not it was a workplace injury or not. They're responsible for maintaining all the confidentiality that they are required while they're working. So computers have to be shut down, can't share your passwords, those types of things. If they have kids at home, they're not able to access your computer equipment, all of that. So with that, if an employee, an elected official or a department head decides that this is a suitable work arrangement for that employee, they'll fill out a workplace agreement form or an alternative worksite agreement form, and they can go ahead and start that work arrangement. So.
I just have a quick question for Mary. Would this allow employees to work in another country?
You know, it could, I suppose.
Like if someone were going back to India, say for 4 weeks to see their family, could they work for those 4 weeks in India? Or, I didn't know if there were any stipulations, just like with the IT equipment and things like that, if they had any like safeguards or anything around that.
Yeah, as long as the county information systems department would authorize that and okay that type of thing, it really doesn't matter. And the elected official and department head approve that, but it would really be up to the elected official and department head to decide whether or not they want that to happen or not.
Part of this policy requires the ability to access that work site and to inspect that work site for safety reasons. You know,
Yeah.
'cause you have to have safety walkthroughs and all that stuff. I think it would be very difficult to be able to do that if they were overseas somewhere.
Right, they would not be able, if they were to travel, you know, if somebody were to take an extended vacation and wanted to check back on their email and things like that, that might be a possibility, but actually living in another country, I think that would be pretty difficult.
It wouldn't fit the safety regulation.
Mary, is this, perhaps I missed it in here, but is this intended for at the request of the employee or at the suggestion or requirement of the department head, elected official, or county official?
You know what, it can be requested either way. You know, if a department head or elected official, if they're struggling hiring somebody, you know, in NIS in particularly, because the candidates want to work remotely, the department head elected official may request that of the employee, or if the employee feels like they are in a position where they could work from home or work at an alternate work site, they can make that request of the department head and elected official, but the end result is always in their hands.
So either condition, it could be the result of either condition. Is there any concern that there'll be a mass effort by employees to consider worksite alternatives?
You know, not at this point, because the majority of our business is done, I mean, we deal with the public. There's a lot of offices that deal with, they have to have FaceTime with other departments and things. So we just really don't have a lot of departments that are able to use this type of thing. You know, our IS does.
So it's your belief, and since you'd be the recipient of any complaints or challenges, it's your belief that people would understand that the work that they do is required to be done on site in the majority of the cases, and so they're not going to be rushing to the door going, well, Joe gets to work at home or Jill gets to work at home, so I want to work at home. You're not concerned for that? So
I'm
not anticipating a negative impact on morale or retention?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I guess under number 5, the tax and insurance considerations, and this is a question, so if I live in another state and I've been approved to work from home, your office or finance would let them know there's a different tax structure on their paycheck. I mean, you would follow, even if they're traveling for, let's say, 6 weeks in another state, I would assume they're following the state taxes of that state, not Nebraska, since they're working outside the state. Is that something your office or the finance office would tell them if they're living and/or working out of another state, either while away for a short time or living there for a long time?
You know, that's something that we would work with the county attorney's office on and figure out what we need to do.
And I think
At least make those employees aware of what's going on.
I think you have to. I mean, I think it's wise because it's on your taxes every year. You know, did you make any money outside the state? Well, were you making money for that? You know, so yeah, it'd be a great something for the county attorney to look at.
And I mean, I'm under the assumption that we have probably a handful of employees now who live in Iowa. So I'm sure that would be an easy, just to figure out what those implications are. I mean, it does fall on the employee to make sure that they understand the tax
Sure.
implications, but
I just wanted to
I don't
see
think that'd be hard to.
if you shared it with them, just to point it out potentially.
Yeah, and residence relocation would impact that. So if somebody gets a remote or alternative work site in Iowa, as an example, then they just decide to move to Missouri and they're still working here. It's on them to report that so that the county doesn't incur additional tax liability. I think that should be stressed, I think, through that approval process. Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Carrie, were you contacted by anybody to make comment?
No, I was not.
Perfect. No one requested and give their views, therefore no comment period is provided. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the alternative worksite policy.
As submitted.
I'll
Thank you, John.
second.
Thank you, John. Motion by Laura Tatton to approve the alternative worksite policy, and seconded by John Strawn. And to recommend that approval of personal policy rules regulation 11. Yes,
Thank you.
alternative worksite policy. Could we vote, please? Thank you, Mary.
4A, 1 absent, motion carries.
Bless you.
I believe that concludes the presented business.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn by John Strawn. Seconded by Randy Bennett. Would you please vote?
Four ayes, 1 absent, motion carries.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned at 3:28.
Good, better than they were last month.
How you doing, Laura?
Good. I was telling Carrie, so last month, I kind of had like a weird medical situation happen. So, I ended up in maternal leave.
It's official.
And went to the ER, so I was in the ER for 3 days.
What's that?
April 2nd through the 4th. And.
Well, I have a lot of meetings.
meetings.
I'm not in charge of most meetings. If I was in charge of most meetings,
They'd
They
be
would-
faster.
they would get done quicker.